Hey guys, welcome back to City Skylines Mahigan episode 16. Today we're going to be working in the area you see me painting on the screen. We're going to put down our suburban metro station for Artus and the metro depot to service the line. So let's just get right into it. So there was a bit of a delay with this episode, and that's for two main reasons. The first one is I tried to build this station about 2 or 3 times and I just wasn't happy with the first couple builds, so I trashed them. I tried to do a sunken station, and while it looked cool on its own, it didn't make sense with it being in the suburbs, because I used Google Earth and looked around, and there aren't really sunken metro stations in the Chicago or the St. Louis area. Really, in the suburbs, they're all above ground. It's when you get downtown they get underground or sunken, which we're gonna do some sunken metros, I promise, and they'll look really cool. And definitely have to use some underground here and there. Want to have a mix of it throughout the city. You probably noticed that I took the metro line off the map, which I know is fairly unusual for metro lines in this game, but my theory is that Mahigan doesn't end at the map's edge. Just because I can't build out there, in my mind, doesn't mean this area it stops. It doesn't. It keeps sprawling, and one day I might actually do a map that is continuation of Mahigan, because Chicago's so big and so massive that I want to give it a full justification. So that's something a long ways down the road if we ever get to it. So hopefully you guys would enjoy that. If you think you would enjoy that, leave a comment down below on that. So we're using the Schaumburg metro station as our main point of inspiration for this build. I really like how open and clean it is. I really like that pedestrian path you see right there, cutting right through the main parking lot. I take that and I also put it into my build because I think it's a really neat concept. I just love how simple that metro stop is, and honestly it made it pretty easy to recreate. So I've used that metro station plenty of times going downtown, because anytime I go up to Chicago, for some reason I just stay in Schaumburg now. It's not like it's really planned, I just end up staying there. So I've used that metro station at least 100 times to go downtown. So it's a very clean metro station, and I knew from the beginning of this series, if I was going to build a suburban metro station, I was going to use that metro station as inspiration. So if you're ever in that area, I highly suggest that metro station. And right here is where you'll see I start building that pathway. I basically do it using invisible paths, and then I take the brick decals there and I just lay them over the top of the invisible paths. It took me a minute to get that parking lot just right, because I'm still using the parking lot roads by Hockenheim, and I'm probably just going to use them until the end of time because I think they're amazing. But it takes me a minute, a lot of tweaking. Some things get done off screen, like placing the parking spaces and everything, because that's boring stuff. So here I go building that pathway, and I think it turns out really cool. It gets some updates here and there to make it look and flow a little better. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out. So I've got some good news. If you guys are nerds like me, I'm bringing back the history for my City Skylines episode. So cue happy noises. Yeah. Fantastic. So let's just get right into this. The Chicago Metro system has 242 stations that service 11 routes and services approximately 1,200 miles of track. So it's a fairly large system, and that's going to work out for us because Mahigan is eventually going to have itself a very large metro system. We haven't touched it much yet, but trust me, it's coming. We'll talk about that later in the episode. So Chicago has been a rail hub since the 19th century, with passenger use dating back to 1855. Mass commuter use began in the 1870s, and that use spurred the building of more tracks in the city than any other city in the world. In the 1930s, Chicago had the world's largest public transportation system, so it exploded. In 1974, everything was reformed under the Regional Transportation Authority to oversee Chicago's public transportation development, and was later reorganized in 1983 again to oversee the bus and rail for the whole metropolitan area. In 1985, they adopted the name Metropolitan Rail, or Metra as we know it now, and it continued to grow out into the suburbs under the moniker of Metra to keep a singular identity. So that is the history of it. It's a fairly complex yet simplistic system, and I really like it. I think it's going to fit what we want to do here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the return of the history lesson. If you did, leave a comment below. Alright, so getting back to what we're doing on the screen, we are finishing up that pathway we were talking about earlier that basically cuts our parking lot in half, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Basically what we did is we took the brick decals, made our own pathway, and put some invisible pedestrian paths underneath it. And I use the invisible pedestrian paths because they don't distort anything, they just lay there and the pedestrians use them. So when this area does start getting used and gets busy, we'll actually see people walking and using that path, which I think is going to be just awesome, and I'm excited for that. I love it whenever the cities start actually coming to life, so to speak. Looks really cool. So I'm working on this little office area right here. This got built because I wasn't quite sure what to put in that space between the roads and the parking lot. I didn't want it to be completely opened, but I didn't want it to be ridiculously overdone either, so I opted to put some office buildings there, and I think it breaks up the parking lot from the main road, acts as a nice little barrier to it. And also I've seen it in certain areas where you have a metro, you'll have office buildings present, and yeah, I think it works for this area because Artus is a bigger suburb for Mahigan, so it's going to have some taller buildings with it, and I think those buildings fit into Artus very nicely. Did want to make mention, with the editing process of this video, I slowed down the video compared to my past videos where I would sit at about 600 to 900% speed. Most of this video was done in 400% speed, so it looks a little smoother while I'm watching it. There are some moments where it gets choppy, and that's where it speeds up to get you through certain areas. But I've been working on my editing, watching some YouTube how-tos, and learning how to do certain things. So hopefully you guys enjoy it and it looks better. Let me know what you think below if the video quality is better. So right here we begin our development of a major access road for Artus. It's going to basically terminate at the metro station right there and act as a back door to get to it, because otherwise to get to the metro station you have to run through a gauntlet of interchanges caused by that highway. So it's going to act as a conduit of traffic and alleviate a lot of the pressure put on those roads. It's also going to act as a main service road for that area. There's going to be a lot of neighborhoods that come off of it, and there's going to be some public spaces up there such as a hospital and some other stuff like that. So it's going to be a pretty important road, and I'm modeling it after roads near me that act as major conduits for traffic here, and it just alleviates a lot of pressure on the highways here. So pretty important roads, and I want to make sure we had them in our city, and it's going to continue to get developed as we go along. So now we're starting work on the area around the metro station. And I tried a couple different things for this area that you see me working on here between that main road and the parking lot. I tried a couple different things. I eventually settled on building a water tower there. And yeah, I like the idea of a water tower being there. It seems like an appropriate place to put it, because a lot of municipalities will put their water towers near other public service structures. So yeah, that's why I put that there. A lot of suburbs have water towers because their primary water source comes from further away, so they have to store their water in a tower nearby for access. At least I think that's how that works. I'm not exactly sure. So with the water tower, we give it a little service station area down here. I took a building from the industrial pack. It's an agriculture building. Turned it into a procedural object and just made it fit for what we were doing. And then I just kind of detail around it with various water tanks and barrels, some traffic barrels as well, because I'm thinking they store like the salt to treat the roads when it gets cold, water trucks, and all kinds of other stuff that public services would need is kept in that building. And then I proceed to basically tear up that lot with some decals to give it a nice worn look, because most of those service areas are pretty worn down. Here we get a man-made service pond, and the idea behind it is it's going to collect a lot of excess rainwater that comes off that highway and that parking lot there. And it's also a great space filler. I got the idea for it from these ponds that are next to the Schaumburg metro station anyways. I'm not really sure what they're used for. I would imagine they collect a lot of rainwater from that highway looking structure and from the parking lots. And they're pretty overgrown, they're pretty green. My pond's not going to be as green as that, but it's going to have a lot of vegetation around it. I did a lot of the work of it off screen though, because my water tool is still broken. It's still conflicting with a mod somewhere. I'm not sure which mod it is. I've done a lot of trial and error. I can't figure it out yet, but one day I will. So whenever I use it, it just makes my screen blue. I can't find the water sources very easily, and it's a giant headache. So I try to save you guys that headache and just deal with it on my own off screen. But we go ahead and put a whole bunch of foliage around this, because my idea is the city doesn't really keep up with this area. They put it there to do a purpose, it serves its purpose, and then they kind of just let it sit there. It doesn't get mowed or anything like that. But I think it fills this space quite nicely. It adds some green, it adds some water to the area, and I see these where I live quite a bit, so they're going to be going throughout Artus quite a bit. Now we're putting down our metro depot. This is going to be one of a few metro depots in the region, because this is going to be a fairly large network, and for a large network like this, we're going to need a couple different depots to provide services for it. And my plan is I'm going to have a metro depot at the end of each major line, and I plan on having about 3 to 4 main lines. We'll see how it goes, but 3 to 4, maybe 5 major lines that run across Mahigan. And then the other networks or the other lines are going to work off of those main lines to provide service to the entire region, because I want to encompass the whole region. I don't want it to just be downtown. I want to encompass as much of this map as possible, kind of, because my plan pretty much for this map is I'm going to keep building until my computer can no longer handle it. We're putting the finishing touches up on the Metro Depot. I wanted to do something different with this space. So I typically do my parking lots using the networks because I like the look of them. But I was watching some channels on YouTube and they would make their parking lots using the ploppable asphalt, which I know seems common sense, but I could never get it to look right. So a few trial and error attempts later, I eventually got a parking lot that I was satisfied with. And basically it took changing the color of the asphalt and then making an intersection using a service road there and then spreading out that node, just, you know, smoothing it out a little bit. And it really made a world of difference. Like, I do like the entrance to that parking lot now. And then the decals just blended together really, really nicely. So I'm probably going to use that method a lot more often to fit parking lots in, because North American cities have a lot of parking lots, and while I don't mind building big parking lots for like malls and stuff like that, it gets pretty tedious to try to put them into small little areas. So this is probably a method I'm going to be using a lot more often, and it's a fairly simple method now that I've got the idea and the concepts down of how to do it. So yeah, going forward, probably going to be using those parking lots a lot more often. And then we just connect up the Metro Depot to the rest of the network. That area next to the depot, that big open field, that's going to be a fun build for later. I can't wait to get that built. It's going to be an entertainment area, so to speak. There's going to be some kind of entertainment in there, so look forward to that in the coming episode. We finish up this build with this pedestrian pathway that snakes behind the metro station here, and it serves three primary functions. First, it gives access and justification to this back door of the metro station, because otherwise it's just kind of awkwardly staring at the highway there. Second, I don't have a lot of pedestrian paths in my city as it is, so I'm trying to get more of those built and make it a more pedestrian friendly city. I just kind of forget to put them in. What are you going to do? And then thirdly, along the lines of option 2, this pathway is going to run into a rather large residential area, and it's going to give them a pedestrian access to the metro station without having to get in their cars and drive there. So 3 functions with 1 path. That'll pretty much finish up our fast play. I'll see you guys in the live play here in a few seconds. Alright, we're back live in game, so let's recap what we did and admire our work, and we'll end the episode there. So we got our walkway right here that I'm very happy and pleased with. Got plenty of trees to go with it. We got our metro station. I don't know if you saw it during the fast play, but we put a clock right up here so people can see the time coming in, and it actually works. How cool is that? It's an actual working clock prop for the game, so I think that's pretty cool. Over here we got our Metro Depot, and I really like the way that turned out with our new parking lots that we're going to be working with. Here's where the path is taking off to, and it's going to come over to here, and there's going to be neighborhoods and stuff over here going forward, so that path is going to probably get used. This space is going to be like a public area later on. I have an idea for it. It's not going to be the next episode, but it's going to be an upcoming episode. We got our office buildings right there, and then we have our service pond right there. That's what I'm calling it. Again, I don't know if that's what it actually is. So yeah, there is the metro station and the Metro Depot, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please remember to leave a like and or subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.